Page 46, Allemande. Allemande is a type of music, you can Google Allemande and read all about it. Okay. In this lesson, we're talking a little bit about extending the hands out. I spoke a little bit about it before. Now they're getting into it. Copycats. You see, when you first start learning to play the piano, your hands are in a nice, neat 5-finger position, where each finger's on the key and the keys are next to each other, wherever it is. Nice, neat 5-finger position. And you'll always get 5-finger positions. They don't go away, but you're not going to get them as much. Sometimes you gotta spread out or squish up or whatever. And extending the hand is where you spread out a little bit. Yeah. People don't like the word spread. Some teachers don't, because that involves tension, and you don't want to be tense. You want to stay relaxed. So they say extend. You're still going to use the same muscles whether you spread or extend, so I don't care what you call it. The point is, we're not there, we're spreading out a little more. Depends on what the music needs, that's all. See, this is one of the main reasons for learning to play the piano, what we've done so far, without looking at the keyboard as much as possible, so you develop that feel of where things are, because when we start spreading out, you need to develop that feel also. It's not here, it's over here, and you know about how far without having to look. You have to look at first, of course, but over time you want to get to where you don't have to look. You can read about that stuff up there. I want to talk about this Allemande thingy. We go through the process I use for learning a piece of music, and let's see what we end up with. I look it over, I say it's 3 lines of music. It's longer than that, but it's just 3 lines of music to learn. The clef signs are treble and bass clef. We still have 1 sharp in the key signature. We're in the key of G major. So go to my scale video on G major and do it 1 octave up and down. Do the trill exercise, the accent, everything I explained for the beginner part, just the 1 octave. Don't go to the intermediate stuff. That's it's a bad idea. Just stick with 1 octave. You don't need to spend a lot of time on scales. Just you go through and you do it comfortably, more or less, eventually. And you know what notes are in it. You know what black keys are involved. Close enough. Have 4/4 time signature. Now take it 1 hand at a time, because both hands are playing together and they're doing different things. Right hand, you're starting with thumb on here. That puts you in this position to start. Not going to stay here, but that's where they want you. And it's 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, and then they want thumb here. So you can play the A again, and that would change positions. Those 2 A's, the half note A at the end of the 2nd measure, and the 8th note A at the beginning of the next measure. They're next to each other, 2 A's, get it? They're repeated notes. It is standard fingering practice, at least in the system that I use and teach. If I need to move my hand around, I can do it on repeated notes. Because you have to lift up a repeated note anyway. So you can move at the same time. If I have to lift it up, I can lift up and move. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm here for the half note 2nd finger, and then I'm going to simply use thumb. I'm just going to lift up and move. That's all. And again, you want to get to where you can do this without looking at the keyboard, where you can change to any finger on repeated notes without looking eventually. So at the end of the 2nd measure, you're here, and then going on is just 1. Same rhythm. 2nd line, C sharp. So the 2nd finger's on C, I'm going to use it on C sharp. And yes, both of those C's in that measure are sharped. Remember the rule for sharps? It's good for that point on for the rest of the measure. Actually, it's the rule for accidentals. It's good from that. So both of those C's are sharped. But in the 3rd measure of the 2nd line, the C in that one, that's a C natural, because the sharp sign in the other measure doesn't affect here. And we have 2 D's here. Look at the 2nd line, 2nd measure. You actually have 3 D's, right? Because we have 2 half note D's here. And then going on, you have another D. And here again, we're going to change hand positions on repeated note. We're going to go from here to here. We'll just change hand positions again. Third line, 1 and 2 and. Now on fourth finger, scrunch up. Remember, we're going to scrunch up. I've done it. Okay. Scrunch up a little bit, just here. If you let the thumb relax, it can do amazing things. People tense up and their thumbs don't work. Well, relax. Well, here. Remember the F sharps in the key signature. Crunch up again, fourth finger. There. So we're walking down. We're here, here, here. This is very common in piano. And the last measure, it's a 4 and then a 5. Again, they're repeated notes. You change it. You could do them both 4 if your head's big enough. It's just easier to reach the B. And yes, that is a B. 1 note below middle C. If you use fifth finger. Yeah. So we are moving around a little bit. Now, when there's repeat signs, you have to consider the effect the repeat sign is going to have. Can you do the repeat sign? Because sometimes that messes up the fingering. So take a look at the second line again. Second measure has a repeat sign. You're here. You're going to repeat back to the beginning. Well, there, the thumb needs to be here. So what you do is just move down a little bit and then collapse. Here, here. We crawled around. We do this a lot because we can feel this and we can feel that. If you can lift up and move down, there's nothing wrong with it because it's the end of a phrase. I'm trying to get you in the idea of feeling your way as you crawl around the keyboard. So here you move the thumb down and then the rest of the hand here. So when you repeat, then repeat, you're here. Yeah. Now at the end, last line here. When you repeat back to the reverse repeat sign in the second line, you got to come up to here. Don't have a lot of help for you because it's rather, you're doing from here to here. It's the end of a phrase, you're lifting up anyway, and while we lift, we simply move. That's all. So we're here to here. You have to look down at the keyboard for that one. So you may have to practice this. Know where you are and which fingers are there. Know where you want to go and which fingers are involved. It's here with little finger. I want to go to here. Because the beat has to be a steady beat. Now, let's see what the left hand is up to. You're starting here, second finger, that puts you here. And the F sharp is part of the hand position because it's in the key signature. So, yeah, it's here. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't need any of these other finger numbers here. You're just staying in this position. However, when you get to the second line, third measure, here the thumb comes up. The hand doesn't move, only the thumb. See, I mentioned this in a previous lesson. When the hands are in a 5-finger position, any, it doesn't matter where here, the outside fingers, the thumb and the little finger, have to sometimes cover 2 notes. So they have to be able to move out. The little finger's got to be able to move out without moving the hand, and the thumb's got to be able to move out. Sometimes without moving the hand. It's just the way it works. This is what's happening here in the second line, third measure. You're here, but the thumb is going to just move out for that B. You're not moving the hand, just here. Then you can come back. You're only there long enough to play the note. So it's 1, 2, 1, 2. Last line, second measure, you're here. Again, we have 2 Ds. We're going to change hand positions on the Ds. I'm going to go from here to here. From little finger to thumb. Again, you need to be able to go from any finger to any finger. And you'll have to look down at first, of course. But eventually, you want to be able to feel what that's like. So you're just lifting up here. Put the hands together. This should be interesting. Now, when I first put the hands together, I'm probably going to hesitate all over. I don't care. I just wanted to try and figure out how the fingers are working together. So we're starting here. It's in here. And now, both are going to be thumbs now. I don't want to go through it. You go through it and slowly put the hands together. Then go back over it a few hundred times, slowly and carefully, and gradually work out the hesitations. Now, a little bit about practicing. When you get longer pieces, it's not really a long piece, but we can pretend it is. It's a really poor way to practice, in my opinion, if you always just start at the beginning and try and go through. A lot of people do that. I used to do that until I learned how to practice properly. It's an inefficient way of practicing. I don't recommend it. Because you end up using a lot of your practice time playing stuff you can already play. What usually happens, most people, and I've heard other people do it in performances, you can tell when they've done this. They'll start out at the beginning of the piece and they play it really well. They know it really well. And as they get through more and more into the piece, they get worse and worse. Until finally toward the end of the piece, it's almost like they can't play it at all. That's because when they would practice it, they would always start at the beginning and try and go through. The problem is you don't always get through. So the beginning gets a lot of practice, and the rest of it doesn't get so much. You end up using a lot of your practice time playing the beginning. Well, you can already play that. So go the other. What we can do is we can split it up into sections. Like a book has chapters in it. Well, a lot of music has sections. Or pieces, just some pieces, some little parts. Break it up. A lot of times the pieces you can just take like a couple measures at a time or a line at a time or something. This is handy because it's in two sections. The repeat signs in the middle line, the second line, that one section is there and the other section's at the end after it. So practice one section only. Stick with the first line and two measures of the second line and forget the rest of it. Just work on that. Get this ironed out. All the way through those measures, and then once you're sort of comfortable with it, then put it aside, forget it, don't play it anymore for a while, and focus on the rest of it, starting with the second line, third measure here. You focus on the rest of it and get it under your fingers. Then once you can do that, then you go back and you put it all together. You will not have forgotten the first part. It'll still be there. Then you get it all. And you'll learn stuff much more quickly if you'll use that approach, because you won't be spending so much of your practice time playing stuff you can already play. And that's what I'm recommending we start doing here on the practice sessions. Now, I'm going to pretend that you've gotten to where you can play the hands together, no hesitations. Nice and slow is fine, but no hesitations. Then we can add the articulation. Here they put in phrasing for you. We're going to lift up in the right hand. The left hand, they don't give you anything. In that case, I'm suggesting you pretty much connect it as best you can. Most of the time. So here I'm going to connect it. Lift up. You have to lift up. It's a repeated note. It's also a phrase. It's just a little lift, like taking a breath. Lift. See at the end of the first line? I'm going to separate though. It's a new phrase. Yeah. The left hand, I'm going to connect it. See here at the end of the second measure, I did this. I connected that. This stays down. And then the last measure, the first line. I lifted up here, I'm connecting that. See, I'm not lifting up in one hand just because I had to lift up in the other. No, they all have to do their own thing. So I'm connecting this left hand. Now at the end of the second measure, of the second line. We're ending a section. You either repeat or you go on, doesn't matter, whichever. Go ahead and lift up in both hands here. Like this. And here, if I repeat, see, I lifted up both hands here. Now if I go on, I'm going to lift up both hands. But at the end of the line, I'm lifting up in the right hand, but not the left. And the last line, second measure, you have to lift up both hands or repeated notes. So you can lift them together. Yeah. So put in the phrasing and go back and play it one hand at a time again to get the phrasing, if it'll help you. And then the dynamics. What starts out in P is mezzo piano, sort of soft. That's going to be the right hand. Here. Whatever the rhythm is. The left hand needs to be in the background. Very soft here. Sort of light here and very light here. Third measure, you go up to moderately loud, mezzo forte. The left hand's still in the background. On the second line, third measure, come back down to moderately soft in the right hand. In the last line, you get that hairpin to get louder. You're going to go up to moderately loud, mezzo forte. But there isn't a lot of difference between mezzo piano and mezzo forte, just a little bit. So I'm going to suggest that maybe in the third line, first measure, you're moderately soft. Stay there. Now come down a little bit. Now. And now you're going to get louder too. Here, because you get another arrow to get louder. You have to kind of plan that out on get your crescendos so you don't get too loud too soon. Got to make it last. So that third line is moderately soft to start. Now we're at moderately loud. Go loud. Now when you repeat, both hands are coming up here. Well, we already talked about the right hand, but the left hand is going here to here. Well, won't that be fun? Because now you're moving both hands. Kind of wish they hadn't done that, because that's one of the more difficult things to do on piano. You're moving both hands at the same time. They got different notes to deal with and different fingers to deal with. Well, again, you one hand at a time. Get the right hand where you're comfortable with that, and then focus on the left hand, going from here to here. And then just very slowly get your fingers over the notes first and then push them down. I don't want to get there and play them. I want to get them there first and then push down. So it's here, here. And over time you just got to speed that up. And it looks like I'm going there and playing immediately. I'm not. I'm going there and I'm getting make sure I'm there and then I play, but it happens very quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you may have to practice those hand moves. I want you to sort of have an idea of the dynamics. We think about the speed. They didn't give us one. Isn't that nice of them? Just somewhere in the middle. Please don't copy me. You get into the music, you feel it. Remember the natural accents? 1, 2, 3, 4. Exaggerate these if you have to at first. exaggerate these, but feel these natural accents. That's really important. If you feel getting a little louder and softer in other places, go for it. Because back when this music was written, they didn't put slurs or dynamics or any of that in the music. They gave you the notes, and it was up to you to just know how to play it and interpret it. So if you want to do something else here, as far as I'm concerned, that's fine. Learn it the way it's written first, and then if you want to experiment a little bit with it, go for it. Let's play this together very slowly and check the notes and the rhythms. This is after you can play it at least slowly with no hesitations. I'm not going to do any louds and softs, but I will do the repeats. That'll give us 4 counts. 1, 2, ready, and go, and 1. And 4, and. 1, 2, 3, repeat. Repeat.